Nano Machine. Bai, Ang Hongweolja. Chapter 282. Emergence. Part 1. A strong gush of wind threw Chun Yoan's balance off, messing up his stepping skill. He tried to regain balance, but the rusted sword couldn't hold him up and broke down. Aowiawa. Yoan fell back down the cliff. He had climbed all the way up here, but he was about to lose everything. No. Yoan quickly pulled out his white dragon blade and stuck it into the wall. Luckily, it wasn't long before he started dropping, so he was able to stop without being dragged down too far. He fell only about few meters, but it was enough to make his heart sink. Yoan panted as he looked up. Damn it. I should have thought about that gust. The idea was to control all swords stuck on the wall with the air sword technique to stick them into the wall so that he can use them as stepping places. If he created the way up, then he could probably climb up without much problems. But the strong gush of wind in the middle set him off the balance. There was no way a mere human could walk past shaky steps under a storm. I can't go past this area with the stepping skill. Even the master of stepping skills Mara Kim would not be able to walk up such a place. Yoan then resorted to the last method. The black metal over both arms scattered apart and formed at the black sword. With the white dragon blade on his right and the sky demon sword on his left, Yoan reached up and stuck the black sword into the wall. With the help of muscle strength and energy, it was easy to stick the sword into the stone wall. It also helped that his weapons were legendary weapons. Yoan then pulled out the white dragon blade with his right hand and stuck it higher above the place where his sky demon sword was stuck. This will take time, but there's no other way. The gush of wind didn't allow him to run up, so this was the safest way for him to climb. But would take much more time. Let's do it quick. Yoan began to climb up slowly but consistently. The man who came out of the medical room then ran to Gamrosu's office. Didn't the sleep medication work? They had put in sleeping medication into medicine soup distributed to those people. He thought they would have been sleeping from the effect of the medication. But if they didn't fall asleep and disappeared, it was easy to see what they were trying to do. Follow me. Yes, sir. Warriors who were assigned on the way followed. There was no way the man could handle 6 powerful warriors. And as soon as he got to the place, he burst the door open, destroying the door. He didn't care as they were going to abandon the mansion anyway. What? The doctor was missing from the office. There were only 2 warriors who were supposedly guarding the gate, unconscious. Warriors walked over to them and checked. They are dead. These warriors had their throats cut down and died without even managing to scream. These warriors were alive just until 30 minutes ago. Damn it. Something was going terribly wrong. The fact that the godly doctor missing was more troubling than the missing 6 people. The man ran out and shouted. The doctor is missing. Find the doctor. What? The doctor's missing? Warriors who heard the shouts began to search through the mansion. The man then quickly headed toward Hingwenja to report, who would have been waiting at the secret passage. And when he got there, he saw monks of the mutant clan waiting outside the secret passage. It's not opening. The passage was made to be opened by using the lever made next to it, but it was broken and a few monks were trying hard to open the door. But there was no way they could open the blue pearl stone door that had been sealed. The man then found Hingwenja between them and ran up to him. What's going on? Where did the doctor go? There was no way that he did not hear the shouts. Hingwenja asked back furiously and the man reported. Elder. The 6 people in the medical room went missing along with the doctor. I ordered a search throughout the mansion but Hingwenja stomped on the ground from fury before the man could finish. The ground cracked, showing how furious he was. Hingwenja pointed at the secret passageway and shouted. Search? They already destroyed the door of the secret exit and escaped. There's no use searching here. What? No, we were fooled. The man then realized that they were played. They were too late. It wasn't sure how, but they found the secret passageway and escaped with it, destroying it behind. This meant that they were helped. It was likely that their help was given by the godly doctor. She turned against us. Hingwenja left the shocked man behind and pulled out his sword. Hingwenja then spoke to his monks. Move out of the way. The mechanism of the door was broken, so they had to break their way out. And it was when monks were about to move away. There was an explosion toward the entrance of the mansion. It was similar to the explosion they heard last night. It was a sign that enemies were on the move. It wouldn't take long for them to reach the area. They then tried to make haste when ambush. Enemies are coming. Enemies are already inside the mansion. They heard warriors shouting toward the entrance. Hingwenja became dumbfounded. There was no way that one explosion would break open the gate. The gate was sealed by many traps and thick blue pearl stone. Wait. Hing Wenja frowned. This situation was exactly the same plan that he was going to use while he ran through the escape route. But instead, it was him and his group that was trapped inside, while the enemies were coming in. Gamrosu? That old hag. Chapter 283. Emergence. Part 2. While Hing Wenja was furious within the mansion, there were 7 figures hurrying through the cave where the secret passageway led them out. It was Chen Yuan's group. Hu Bong grinned as he heard the noise coming from the far end of the tunnel behind him. He. They must have come into the mansion now. Good. It was Yang Danhua who came up with the plan. Of course, it was thanks to Hu Bong and Ho Sanghua who acted as patients that they managed to take out godly Dr. Gamrosu with them. NNGH. Baki's face was red. Hu Bong was injured, so Baki volunteered to carry Gamrosu on his back, but she was very well built with heavy muscles, so she was heavier than Baki thought. You're weaker than you look. Gamrosu spoke to Baki and Baki brought up his internal energy. He couldn't hold her up with just his physical strength alone. We have no time to waste. Come on. Yes, ma'am. In Moha ordered as they ran. There were too many enemies, so it was likely that the people left at the mansion wouldn't last long. They had to get out of Sword Creek while the fights went on at the mansion. After a while of running, they saw the end. But the exit was blocked. It's blocked. It's just blocked by a simple rock. You can just push it out. Gamrosu spoke and In Moha nodded and pushed the rock. With her powerful energy, the rock was pushed out. A light. With the rock being pushed out, light came into the cave. It wasn't morning yet, so it was still a bit dark outside. The rock was pushed out all the way and dropped. They saw the cliff on the opposite side. However, there were many people at the other end and In Moha and the others turned grim. There were at least over 20 enemies. It seemed not all of them had entered the mansion. At least the old man isn't here, or any other powerful warrior. If there was, then it would be dangerous. These 20 enemies didn't seem to be much of a threat. I'll make a path. Stay close. In Moha spoke and all of them nodded. She ran quickly and jumped across a 30-meter range. As soon as she got down on the ground, she pulled out her sword. She then charged at masked men nearby, and they tried to defend but, arg. The third formation of True Demon's sword cut their necks immediately, killing them. In Moha then tried to attack the others, but one masked man blew the whistle that he had on his neck. No. She knew what the man was trying to do, so In Moha threw bullet force chi at the man. The force chi shot past him trying to cut down the man, but other masked man pushed the man with the whistle. Damn it. Yang Danhua held on Hu Bong and jumped. All of Yuan's members then jumped across as they all heard the whistle. But it was too late. Masked men began gathering after they heard the whistle. The number was much more than they first thought. It was even curious how this many people came into Sword Creek. There's more than 100. How many were here? They thought the old man from the inn was alone, but that wasn't true. Then powerful energy came down at In Moha. Ugh. She quickly raised her sword to defend. It was bullet force chi. She used 100% of her energy to defend, but the power of bullet force chi was so strong that she was pushed back until the energy dissipated. This presence. She turned toward the direction where force chi came from. It was the old man from the inn. She hoped the man would be inside the mansion, but it seemed he had been waiting outside. The old man seemed happy to find them out here. Ha ha ha, as expected. I didn't think there was only one way out from that place. The old man thought there would be multiple entrances, so he had waited outside. The old man glanced over and glared at Gamrosu. Oh, I didn't know the godly doctor was an old woman. He recognized the godly doctor right away. He had seen the other people once, so it wasn't hard for him to recognize the doctor. Mun Ku then gritted her teeth when she saw the face of the old man. Rage came back to her as she saw the person who led Yuan to his death. But In Moha and Yang Danhua were frustrated by the situation. This is bad. It was hard enough to handle the old man, but the man standing next to him was also problematic. The man didn't have any mask on like the old man, but he seemed to be very powerful. It was likely that he was at least an entry-level superior master warrior. Master Li. I'll take care of those two, so get the rest and bring back the doctor. Yes, sir. The old man pointed at In Moha and Yang Danhua. He didn't like that he had to retreat before getting rid of them twice. The old man then pulled out a thick sword from his waist. Shall we start then? The old man disappeared and quickly closed in on In Moha. Ugh. In Moha took steps to put distance and shouted. Protect Granny Gam. They had to have Granny Gam escape this place and take her to the mountain of 10,000. Hubong, Hosangwa and Munku circled around Baki, who had Gamrosu on his back. There were too many enemies, so they had to stick together. Elderiang. I will take this old man. Kill the other man. Got it. Yang Danwa pulled out the blade and tried to jump at the man called Master Li, but the old man instantly turned and blocked Yang Danwa. Huh? Where do you think you are going? You two are with me. And with that, Master Li quickly charged toward 3 people who were protecting the godly doctor. He ran straight at Munku. Munku brought up the energy on her both hands to defend. Huh? Master Li became surprised and swung his sword to his right. A sword? What was thrown at him was a rusted sword. He had to defend because he felt something being shot at him, but the power held within was too strong. Master Li was pushed away by the strong energy contained within the rusted sword. He then used all of his energy to push away the sword. The sword crashed immediately. Air sword? Who? The attack was surely made through an air sword. The man then turned to the direction where the sword was thrown from. It was toward the stone rock at the cliff. But there was no one there. What? What is going on, huh? That's when something unbelievable happened. The rock is shaking. Rock? No, that's not it, Master Li thought as one of the masked men shouted. What was shaking was the hundreds of swords stuck in the wall. With the weird phenomena, everyone turned in the direction. Then the swords began to be pulled out from the wall. They floated above the ground and were aimed toward the masked men. What? Swords are moving. All the masked men became shocked. What is happening? The old man too seemed to be shocked from what was going on. Hundreds of swords were floating in the air, and there was something rising up from the cliff. What? It was a young man with long black hair and a black robe. The man was on a black sword, rising up from it. The sight was as if the demon god was emerging from the demonic realm. Munku's eye became large with shock, then soon turned teary and she shouted. Prince! Chapter 284. Emergence. Part 3. After climbing up for a long time using the Sky Demon Sword and the White Dragon Blade, Chun Yoan was finally able to get out of the dangerous area. The winds died down and now Yoan felt a lot of presences above. He could now sense further than when he was at the superior master level. There are a lot. Yoan became concerned. He wasn't sure what happened while he was down at the cliff. All those people above the cliff were martial artists. In Moha? Yoan then felt familiar energy. It was the energy of In Moha, Baki, and Ho Sangwa who were missing. They were alive. Yoan then thought he should make his way up quickly. All other presences he felt were hostile. He wasn't sure what might happen if he didn't hurry up. I don't think I have to do this anymore. Yoan then tried to create a step up again by using air sword, but then he saw someone jumping across the cliff above. And one of the figures had very familiar energy. Munku. It was Munku. There were others who were crossing the cliff. And on the other side where they were jumping off to, more martial artists were gathering, some of whom were very dangerous. It seemed one of them was the old man that Yoan fought at the inn. He couldn't sense him before, but now with the Supreme Master level, he was able to sense the old man. I have to be quick. But the way he used the method until now was slow. Yoan then changed his way of climbing. It was a change in ideas. Wait. If I can control the sword, isn't it better if I control it while carrying me? It was the air sword flying technique. Yoan didn't know this, but there was an unconfirmed legend that there were some supreme level warriors that flew around with the swords. Yoan had just come to this idea himself, however. Yoan placed the Sky Demon Sword over his hand and sent energy into it. The sword began to move freely and Yoan placed his both foot over the sword. It felt weird, as if he was stepping on nothing, but he had no time to think about the feeling. Yoan sent energy to make his foot connect tightly to the sword and moved it to rise above. Yoan then sensed about 150 warriors above and chose to use air sword. Hundreds of swords floated above, waiting to be ordered. They floated as if they would charge with the flick of Yoan's finger. Masked warriors couldn't move as they were tense from being aimed. Prince! Munku shouted with tears running down her cheek. And it wasn't only her who was crying. Master! You were alive? Wah! Hubong and Ho Sangwa also cried at Yoan's appearance. What was crazier were the floating swords around him. It was surely the use of air sword. Did the Lord become a supreme master warrior? In Moha's eye turned large as she looked at Yoan. He was at the same power up until a while ago. But after hearing that he had dropped to the cliff and died, Yoan returned in a day with entirely different power. Is he really chosen by the demon god? It was hard to describe it any other way. The sight of him with black robe and floating in the air with hundreds of swords actually made him more like a demon god himself. He should have died in that cliff. The old man saw Johan fall into the cliff with fire on his body. Even if it was the old man himself, there was no way he could survive from dropping into that cliff while on fire. He's different man from 2 days ago. The old man sensed Johan to be at the end stage of superior master level. But if he was using air sword, he was surely at the supreme master level. And if he could control this many swords, it's not just entry. He's definitely at the supreme master level. This was unbelievable. Was there some treasure hidden beneath that cliff? The old man then turned to glance at the godly doctor. No. That old woman should be carrying that. The old man speculated if the one he was looking for was down the cliff, but that didn't seem likely. The old man shouted at Johan. You're lucky to be alive. Ha ha ha. Welcome to the world of highest powers. World of highest powers meant supreme master level to the people of Yulin. Among tens of thousands of martial artists, there were only a handful of people who reached the supreme master level. Masked men were fearful of Johan's appearance however, as all these swords presented were very threatening. And Johan floating alongside these swords made him look like a monster or a demon. The old man shouted. Stop bluffing and why don't you come and fight me? You think I don't know that you can't control all of those swords? This wasn't a lie. The old man was also an entry-level supreme master warrior. He knew how to use air sword but he also knew that the technique didn't work well against powerful warriors with equal strength. And there was also a clear limit as to how many numbers of swords one can control, as there was a limit to how many things one could think at once. Chapter 285. Emergence. Part 4. Even that fool who only trains an energy force said 12 was the limit. That's just a bluff. Even controlling 12 was limited to simple movements. Most people who could control swords with air sword was limited to 3 to 5. He's a fool. Trying to bluff in front of the same supreme master level warrior. The old man was certain that all those floating swords were just a show. It was probably Johan's plan to demoralize enemies as they were outnumbered. Johan then spoke to the old man. Do you think it's a bluff? Oh? If not, then why don't you show? But before the old man could finish, Johan aimed his finger at the masked men. Hundreds of swords then began to make a move. No way. That's not going to work. The old man shook his head. Something didn't feel right but he denied the possibility and held on his sword and tried to jump toward Johan. At that moment, Johan ordered Nano. Nano, help me with this. Nano's voice responded within Johan's head. Activating self-targeting system on all of 128 swords per user order. Locking onto all targets. Johan's eye already had augmented reality activated, and he saw red spotlights aimed at every masked man. It also targeted the old man who was now charging at him. Johan then raised his hand up. Attack commencing. And the 128 swords immediately began to move at once. It was a sight to behold. Countless swords moved on their own as if they were alive and charged at the masked men. And no way. This is impossible. The masked men tried to defend themselves by using their weapons, but the speed of these swords was equal to the speed of Johan using the sword by himself. Arg. Ugh. Tens of masked warriors immediately were penetrated and cut by the swords. Blood splattered all around and screaming filled the area. Stop. Stop it. What do you suppose we do? Masked warriors shouted frantically as they tried to defend themselves by using formations but they couldn't do anything. There was no way to defend against these swords unleashing powerful sword skills. The area became a bloodbath and the old man frowned. How can this be? He was looking at it with his own eyes but he still couldn't believe it. He didn't imagine that he would see hundreds of swords controlled perfectly at once. What kind of brain could achieve this? This is not possible. Of course, it was not possible for any normal human. But with help of Nano, it was able to control everything through Johan's brain, especially these movements that no ordinary man could do. It was Nano that made impossible to become possible. You are not an exception. Johan aimed his finger at the old man. What? For swords immediately charged at the old man and he quickly moved his sword to deflect it. Swords used a powerful sword skill, but they were all rusted so they all shattered when the old man struck them down. You think I'm a fool, HUH? But Johan was no longer in the air. Johan knew very well that there was no way to kill the old man with rusted swords. Arg. Yeah. Swords flew around, splattering blood everywhere. The screams filled the entire space. Johan heard the sound ringing through as he ran. It felt as if time was flowing slowly on him. Johan shot past the masked men who were falling down. Faster. At the destination, the man who was called Master Li was striking down at Mun Ku. He was trying to take the godly doctor when the situation began to turn against them. Mun Ku was raising her hand to defend, but she was a bit late. The sword was coming fast at her head. At that moment, Yuan's sky demon sword swung up and struck against the man's sword. The man's eye grew large as his hand was thrown upward. When did you? His eyes saw Yuan appearing suddenly in front of him. But that wasn't the end. With throwing the sword away by using Sky Demon's sword on the right, Yuan's left hand was already upon the man's neck. And when the blade touched his skin, the man then realized. His eyes shook from the shock when the blade sliced past his neck. The time came back to normal speed. This was the world that Supreme Master level warriors were seeing. Huh? Mun Ku, who was trying to defend against the attack, became surprised and stopped. The sword that was coming at her was already in the air and a red line appeared on the man's neck, and soon his head was cut and it fell to the ground. Blood gushed out from the neck and Yuan kicked the body away so that the blood would not splatter over Mun Ku. Prince. Her eyes teared up as she realized it was Chen Yuan who saved her from danger. And at the same time, another man was furious from the turn of events he just witnessed. It was the old man who lost trace of Chen Yuan while trying to defend himself against 4 swords. He finally realized where and what Yuan had done. Chapter 286. Emergence. Part 5. The power difference between an entry level of Superior Master Warrior and a Supreme Master Warrior was too large. Master Li lost his life so easily at such a difference. Prince. Chen Yuan wiped tears off Mun Ku's face and patted her head softly. I'm sorry. I thought you were really dead. Her voice was coarse from crying all night. That's when Yuan's body dwindled. My head. His head became dizzy and sharp pain came to his entire brain. Prince? Mun Ku helped him up and became surprised to see veins popping up over his forehead. Energy usage exceeded 75% of total energy stored within the body. Stopping self-targeting mode due to brain function overload. With Nano's voice, the energy draining from Yuan's body stopped immediately. The headache also subsided and when the self-targeting mode stopped, so all swords lost power and dropped to the ground. The S-sword stopped. These swords were rusted in the first place so they were already badly damaged. While attacking, but after dropping to the ground, they shattered immediately. It was too much. Yuan held up his numb head and got up. Nano helped him, but it was his own body that did the control so it was too much of a burden on his brain and energy. I can only last 3 minutes. It only lasted 3 minutes, but it was still a monstrous ability to control hundreds of swords. On the field, there were only about 18 masked warriors left. A monster. Is he really a demon god? The attack stopped but all masked men had lost the will to fight. A total of 80% of them had died just in a few minutes so they were too afraid to even make a move. I have to take care of the rest. Yuan took a deep breath and tried to replenish used energy by sucking up the energy around him. The old man was already upon Yuan, attacking him with rage. Get back. Yuan pushed Mun Ku away and swung his Sky Demon sword to defend against the old man's sword. The 2 swords struck against each other, creating a powerful energy force gushing out within them, pushing others way into the back. Just by swords colliding? Baki became surprised and took steps to get away from them in order to protect Gamrosu. Other people who protected Baki also got back. The old man narrowed his eyes. I thought he used all of his energy. He didn't. The old man used 100% of his energy to attack, but it was his hand that was shaking due to the tremendous energy coming in. This was due to the power difference between them. It's lucky Nano cut me off before I used all of my energy. Yuan was relieved as he would have died to this attack if he had used all of his energy. Yuan then swung his blade to kill the old man, just like how he did it with the other man. But the old man brought up his hand with force chi over it to defend. Get the doctor. The old man then roared at the surviving masked men. They then came back to their senses. Why yes, sir. They had to get the doctor while their leader was fighting that monster. They quickly charged toward Ho Sangwa, Hu Bong, and Mun Ku. But there was one thing they didn't consider. Arg. Yang Danwa who came at them suddenly cut his neck instantly. Fools. That's not possible. It wasn't only Yang Danwa. Een Moha also quickly jumped to attack the masked men who were trying to attack. They are too strong. Een Moha didn't even use a sword formation in dealing with the enemies. These masked warriors were powerful, but they were no match against superior master level warriors. The old man frowned. Ugh, this monster ruined everything. Who is this monster and these people? He didn't hear anything about them. Chen Yuan's power surely almost equaled the top 5 warriors of Yulin. But the old man had information about those 5 warriors and the strong 9 beneath them. He had never heard of a young man like his enemy being so strong. Even if he's exhausted, we are outnumbered. The situation had turned around. There was no way for the old man to deal with all of them. I have no choice. I'll attack with the best skill I have to injure this monster and escape. The old man made a decision. He was angry that his long-prepared plan had been busted and lost many men, but he had to get away if he wanted to live. It's a shame I can't kill him while he used up his energy. He wasn't sure if he could finish Yuan under one formation, but he had to run away now. Huh? He's doing something. Yuan became surprised as the old man swung his sword to send Yuan's sword down. Yuan and the old man's 2 swords struck the ground. The old man then took the chance to get away, unleashing his best skill. Take this. With powerful energy gathering at the tip of his sword, the powerful sword skill was unleashed. But this sword formation was very familiar. The angles that the swords were coming in, unlike any ordinary formations. It was also not a thrust, but a slash. Almost close to a blade formation. Blade God's skill? Chapter 287. Emergence. Part 6. This was similar to the blade skill of the Blade God. Yuan then realized that this old man was related to the Blade God's 6 martial clan. Yuan used the second formation of the sword force of the Sky Demon. The sword was coming from a weird angle, but Yuan knew where it was coming from already, so he defended against it easily. What? The old man's eye grew large from shock. The movement wasn't something that could be predicted, but Yuan defended easily as if he knew it from the beginning. Yuan struck the sword down and spoke. You're from the Blade God's 6 martial clan. The old man's eyes shook from shock. He had snuck into the territory of the forces of justice, so he refrained from any formation that might resemble that of the Blade God's skills, but he revealed just one movement. What? Does he know our clan's martial art? And with the reaction, Yuan was able to confirm that the old man was indeed from the Blade God's 6 martial clan. And with such power, it was likely that this man was one of the leaders. Something's not right. I have to escape. With his identity revealed, the old man became worried and unleashed Force Chi to use the formation to distance himself from Yuan. But Yuan used a unique stepping skill to dodge the attack easily. The stepping skill that Yuan just used was the Step of Wind God. It was the skill that man with a strange mask the old man once fought a few months ago at Jurkang Castle. Is this him? He was able to recognize the martial art that the enemy used when he fought previously. This stepping skill was exactly the same skill that the masked man used that time. It was the man who dodged the Blade God skills formation and struck him. You're that masked cultist. Mask? Yuan became surprised. It was certain that this old man was talking about Great Guardian Marakim. This is the man that Great Guardian said he fought at Jurkang Castle. Yuan heard everything that happened at Jurkang Castle with details. If that was the case, Yuan had to capture this man alive. If he's that cultist, then it is better I kill him even if it's going to cost my life. The old man changed his plan from escaping to fight. His original plan also contained having the power of the demonic cult to be weakened. If his enemy was one of the cult's leaders, then it was better to get rid of him while he had chance. The old man who originally tried to escape, charged back in. The old man then unleashed all of his power and used the final formation of his skill. Humph. You won't get away from this one. I know this one. The old man was using the Soaring Dragon formation that Yuan named. It was the 6th formation of the Blade God's blade skill. The power was tremendous. Enough to rip apart First Elder Mu Jinwan in the past. With the old man's body spinning from the bottom, sword energy began to storm up, trying to overwhelm Yuan. This is the formation you barely got out last time. He didn't fully master this formation a few months ago, but it was different now. The old man had perfected the formation in order to make it work correctly. Yuan's body began to be pushed upward by a strong torrent. I got him. But Chen Yuan didn't look all that concerned. I didn't think I would try this first on you guys. What? The Sky Demon sword in Yuan's right hand immediately scattered and returned back to arm guards. With his body bit lifted from the ground, Yuan grabbed the white dragon blade with both hands and struck down on the ground. His body then divided into 8 traces, and all 8 traces unleashed 8 formations from it. And the old man gasped with shock. What? This is? With the blade formation that came from 8 traces like a dragon, it stormed through the old man's Force Chi and shot out. It was a blade formation that unleashed all energy within it. It was the 7th formation of the blade skill of the blade god that Yoan acquired under the cliff. How can this be? This is impossible. The old man quickly brought up force chi to defend himself by using a defensive formation. But the power was just too strong. Arg. The old man's sword cracked from the power and the blue blade force chi shot through his sword and cut down his body. Ugh. The old man gasped. At the same time, blade force chi penetrated past the old man and struck the ground, kicking the dust up. This is useful, Yoan thought as he looked down at the white dragon blade that was stuck in the ground now. Unlike the 8th formation, the 7th formation was a combination of existing blade movements that Yoan was able to acquire it quickly. But the power was beyond that of any of former formations. The dust cloud died down and there were 8 scars left on the ground from where Yoan was standing, as if there had been an explosion with Yoan as the center. A broken sword dropped to the ground. It was the long thick sword that the old man had held. Ugh. Blood spat out from the old man's mouth. His body was drenched with blood as it was cut from the blade formation that Yoan used. The old man opened his mouth with disbelief. How did you learn his blade skill? Ugh. And the old man spat out a lump of blood again and dropped to the ground.